everybody. Well, we're gonna mute everybody now. And I want to say welcome, and it's nice to see all of you here this morning. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know, I'm Kat Robinson Reeder, a member of the Lay-Led Service Committee. I'm sorry, if you're unmuted, could you mute yourselves, please? Normally, the Lay-Led Service Committee plans and leads one service a month to give Reverend Linda a day off. And we're also helping out this month as she takes a well-deserved vacation. She has lined up some great ministers to fill in, some of whom will be familiar to you. Today, for example, we welcome back the Reverend Janet Newton Thibodeau, who is with us now for her 4th visit, which should say something about how much the congregation has appreciated her past visits, even though she is joining us from the other island, Martha's Vineyard. By way of introduction to those who don't know her, Reverend Janet is a Southwestern transplant who now lives and works imperfectly toward her spiritual growth on Martha's Vineyard with her wife Maria, and thanks to the recent arrival of a new baby in October. Congratulations. 2 daughters, Orion, Grace, and Larkin Joy. She also serves as the minister of First Parish Church of Berlin, Massachusetts. So welcome, Reverend Janet. We're so happy you could be with us again today. And in addition, we welcome Susan Berman and Ray Saunders, who will be providing our music this morning to give Nigel, our music director, a break as well. So I'm going to begin by reading our mission, which is working toward a more just and inclusive society. Our congregation supports spiritual growth and service with open doors, minds, and hearts. Open doors for welcoming our diverse island communities and visitors, open minds for exploring differing ideas and beliefs, and open hearts for deepening our connection with others and ourselves. If anyone has a brief announcement, you may unmute yourself and share it now. And I know Val has an announcement to start us off.
Okay, thanks, Kat. Our next lay-led service after this one is January 24th, and I will be leading that service. And the theme of the service is a celebration of the decades of life. And I got the idea for this from a prose poem I found. I want to age like sea glass. And the final lines of that poem say, I want to age like sea glass. I want to enjoy the journey and let my preciousness be, not in spite of the impacts of life, but because of them. So if you're interested in speaking about this or anything to do with aging, it doesn't have to be about this poem. It would be great to have you join us. So I will put my email and cell phone in the chat, and you can get hold of me if you'd like to volunteer. I'd love to have you. Thanks.
Great. Sounds like a wonderful service, Val. I'm looking forward to it. Does anyone else have a brief announcement you would like to make? Nope. Okay, great. So we're now going to move into our chalice lighting with the words that are printed in the order of service and also goes out in our e-blasts and is on the front page of our website. I don't actually have a chalice, but I do have a nice candle holder. So please, you may unmute yourselves now to join me in saying the words for our chalice lighting. With this flame, we renew our commitment to justice, peace, and compassion. And you can remain unmuted for the singing of our affirmation. This is the only time that we sing together live on Zoom in a wonderful cacophony of sound. So over to you, Susan and Ray.
Thank you. And for a 2021 challenge, I think we've gotten pretty good at singing together, but you get to follow me on guitar. So there'll be a short introduction and then we'll sing. From all that dwells below the sky, that faith and hope and love, that beauty, truth, and goodness song, every man by every tongue. Amen.
Great. So now is the time in our service where we greet one another. Oh, I'm hearing somebody is still unmuted. Can you check? Before we greet each other, if you are new today or returning after an absence, if you would like to tell us or remind us of your name and where you're from, we would love to greet you in good UU Meeting House style. Is there anybody who is new or returning today who would like to introduce themselves? Just us today, I guess. Well, great. So I invite you now to unmute yourself and greet one another in fellowship.
Hi, Sue.
Happy New Year, Allison.
Susan.
Susan.
Happy New
How
Year.
you feel? Susan.
Happy New Year, Ollie.
Hi, Greg.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Great to see you, Randy.
Hi,
Ann Perkins.
Susan,
Hi, Ann.
thank you,
Nancy, Adrian, good morning.
Sue. Good morning.
Good morning.
Cheryl.
Hi, Lucille.
Hi, Lydia. Thank you for that lovely vegetable bouillon recipe you posted.
Hey, Nancy, Adrian, it's nice to see you in your home.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
good to be
Thank
here
you,
this morning
Susan
on
and Ray,
Sunday.
for singing.
Oh, our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Okay, let's, we're going to mute everybody now. And
You're muted, Kat. You sending it over to me?
I'm sending it over to you and Ray
Awesome.
for the first hymn.
Because you're muted too. Okay, our first hymn is one of my favorites, and I think Susan Kirk said it was one of hers too. Number 311, Let It Be a Dance. And just so you follow us, we're going to do all three verses, and I treat that first stanza, Let It Be a Dance, we do, May I Have This Dance with You, through the good times and the bad times too, Let It Be a Dance, as a chorus. So we'll come back to that each time we do a verse and end the song with that. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Chorus. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance. Last chorus. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. And I forgot to tell you musicians out there, I do have a couple of slight key shifts, and that was one of them. I know there's some people who noticed that. All right.
That's a great one. It's always very rousing, a nice way to start the service this morning. And now I would like to ask Ann Perkins to unmute herself for the reading of the first poem.
One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations. Though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voice behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. By Mary Oliver, The Journey.
Thank you, Anne. And now it's meditation time. Reverend Janet.
Good morning. It's my great pleasure to be back here with you all. I have adapted this meditation from an almanac that comes out of England by Leah Lendertz. My church follows theme-based ministry that uses Soul Matters themes, and so this month that theme is imagination. And it is in that vein that I offer this meditation, because it is one that asks you to imagine in the moment the things that I want you to do later with your actual body, that you will engage in this physical activity at some point in the next few days. So you might imagine doing it now. We are starting a new calendar year. We are starting a new political year. We are starting a new relationship with this virus as we introduce widespread vaccination. So what better time to renew our relationship with the very ground and air around us, the source of our sustenance and the breath of our life. I know that there are gardeners among you, as I have been with you before and shared my own gardening mishaps. So I urge you to engage in this exercise, even if gardening isn't your jam, if for no other reason than food and oxygen are. In January, it's tempting to stay indoors and experience the natural world through windows. And even when you go outside, it's tempting to bundle yourself up from nose to toes and keep the chill at bay. So what if instead, imagine, you took just 5 minutes to be in your garden or your yard or your favorite beach spot outside and just observe. I'm not advocating scofflaw trespassing here, but if your island is like mine, you might just be able to borrow somebody else's garden for this exercise in the short term. They're not there right now, they may not notice. You may initially see just mess and mud, but this is an invitation that starts right now and continues through the coming year, asking, where do you see and feel beauty in the outdoors during every moment of the year? There might be those among you who can do this right now if you're zooming in via cell phone and earbuds. So if that's you, go for it. For the rest of us, this is a test of our imagination, but I hope that you will promise to finish the exercise in full. Head out to that growing space. What do you see and hear and feel? Even though it is cold, take off your shoes and socks and stand barefoot on the cold earth and think, what is good about this moment? Perhaps the light is beautiful. Perhaps it is quiet. Perhaps there are birds chirping on the periphery of your senses. Maybe your body is warm from a good thick coat, while the soles of your feet are tingling and alive with cold. Think about the moment you will go inside and warm them up. Describe the color of the sky to yourself. Is it piercing blue or dappled with cloud? If the sun is on your face or your back, think about how it warms you from the closest it ever gets to us. Yesterday was the perihelion of its elliptical orbit. So the warmth that you feel now in winter comes from an astonishingly close 91 million miles away. It will be almost 3 million miles further away on the 5th of July. Think about how its strength will increase as the year goes on and how that will feel. And look for signs even now in these cold and dark days. Bulbs are starting to push their little green spears up through the earth. But if you can't see anything yet, think about all that life held suspended. The cycles of nature are a good reminder that we are made to weather cycles. We are made to withstand going fallow, slowing down, spending time apart, tucking in, relishing our time turned inward. But with the earth's temperature seeping into our feet, we get the reminder too, we are connected to all this. And just like it, we will come alive again, come together, locate the richness within us, burst forth, blossom, and feed our souls. Imagine. Blessed be.
I love that. It is the time in our service for joys and concerns on the joys and sorrow that's just been shared.
Strands are
Oop.
strands are trying to get your attention.
Who is? For the joys and sorrows that were expressed, we ask that they grow more joyful because shared here in this circle of friends. And for the sorrows shared and unshared, we ask that they grow easier to carry because brought here to this loving community. Now we'll have our middle hymn.
Can you hear me, Kat? Okay, I'm not gonna worry about it, I can't hear anything, thanks. So we're going to do meditation on breathing, number 1009. I think most of you are familiar with it, and we'll be singing between Ray and I all three parts. Choose whatever parts you want to sing along, but know that once Ray joins in, we'll be singing, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love 4 times. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. People get ready, there's a train coming. Don't need no baggage, just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord.
Reverend Janet, you're up.
With gratitude to the musicians, I always love mashups of like that. And I have to say too that the Let It Be a Dance, I'm a raised Unitarian, so Rick Maston used to make the rounds when I was a kid, and him coming to church was like Santa Claus coming when I was a kid. So I'm always happy to sing a Rick Maston song. The Sunday is the closest one to the 12th day of Christmas. It's technically this coming Wednesday, the 6th. So for today, all you'll need to do is make space for the 9 dancing ladies about to show up at your door. But you'd better be thinking about accommodating the Leaping Lords and the Fife and Drum Corps that are on their way. Maybe you'll get lucky with winter weather and they'll cancel ferries and they'll strand that noisy band in Hyannis. At any rate, that 12th day of Christmas is the one that the Western Christian calendar celebrates as the Feast of Epiphany, or Three Kings Day. It is the story of the Magi that goes something like this. They were nobility, they were scientists, they were astrologers and adventurers, and they saw the star at its rising, and they traveled to find the child Jesus somewhere in the Middle East, and they narrow it down to Herod's territory, so they go get their travel visas from him. But Herod is a jealous and paranoid ruler. We don't know much about that. He hears about the star and he has his advisors read him the prophecy and then slyly tells the Magi to come let him know where the child is when they're finished so that he too can pay homage. Yeah, right. As an aside, there are those who suggest that these distant travelers actually showed up 2 years after the birth and after the shepherds who were watching their flocks by night were visited by a multitude of the heavenly host. So let's hope that the little drummer boy joined the 3 kings at a toddler's birthday party and not postpartum. With a new baby at home, I can tell you how happy I would be to see a drummer boy right now. At any rate, the reason I bring this story up at all is to remind us that just what happens at the ending of their time on the stage, just before they exit stage left and leave that bewildered family holding two kinds of incense and a gold teething ring. Matthew says, and having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Most Unitarian Universalists that I know don't arrange their lives around this Christian concept of epiphany. And when most Unitarian Universalists I know encounter what we might call an epiphany, it's unlikely to be heralded by an angel or a star, producing an encounter with the earthly manifestation of a judgmental sky god in a white robe and beard. They might rather interpret the promise of epiphany from Matthew much as Mary Oliver ends her poem. And there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Or epiphanies such as William Wordsworth had at Tintern Abbey, when he experienced this moment that allowed his soul to open up with knowledge that humanity, in all its heart-wrenching conditions, was inextricably linked through a vast everything and beyond. Still, we have something to learn from these ancient magi who don't acquiesce to the paranoid narcissistic ruler and go back to Herod with the scuttlebutt about the location of this child. Immediately after we are told they go home by a different road, there's a second part of the story that doesn't get shared very often, which is that Joseph is warned about Herod in a dream and he leaves, he flees to Egypt. And Herod, knowing he's been tricked, proceeds to slaughter all the male children under the age of 2, born of the Israelites. So the story is one of political corruption and mass genocide and a refugee family. That is the story of Epiphany. So I share some thoughts on this story. These men, these foreign magi, possessed the height of privilege. They had choices, they had resources. They could leave their homes and they could follow a sign for 1 to 3 years. And though they denied Herod his requested information, their privilege likely insulated them from the worst of a Herod-level temper tantrum. They left for their own country by another road. Put another way, they paid their respects. They were warned that Herod was dangerous, and so they went home safe and sound. And so while they used their privilege to avoid Herod, if that's all they did, it feels a little bit irresponsible. They saved themselves, but could they have done more? They could have smuggled the Holy Family into their own countries. They could have used their privilege to go to Rome and attempt to overthrow Herod. They could have chosen to go back to Herod and suggest that they didn't find the child or that the family was already gone by the time that they had arrived. These men spent all this time getting to their epiphany. They'd followed that star through sandstorms and thirst, the next oasis feeling just a little too far away. And then once they'd encountered proof of their prophecy, once they'd met a baby they were convinced was even more miraculous than every other baby, which, can we just acknowledge, are all pretty miraculous, they slinked away to save themselves from Herod. They turned their epiphany into, at most, what I sometimes refer to as an epiphanette, just a little baby one, just a little one that you can barely hang on to. And they probably forgot even that by the time they got home, distracted by their frustrations on the journey, their ornery camels and bad maps, because the navigational star was now behind them. Epiphany holds within it this possibility of a new understanding, a new vision, a new call. It is seen as this bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary. And we're not just talking about magi returning home. We're talking about what happens when you take an extraordinary moment back into the ordinary, when you bring it with you as you head back home. The biggest question that I am always left with when I ponder opportunities that push us toward expansive understanding, toward extraordinary things, when we have these lessons that engage the world with hearts and minds and souls, that we might encounter more epiphanies, my question is, why are they so hard to hang on to? Where have you experienced epiphanies, and what do you do with them? How frequently or repeatedly must they arrive upon you before their message sinks in enough to change your life, before they send you home by a different way or send you home as a different person, changed forever by the encounter? Epiphanies, when they come upon us, owe much to this ancient story that tells us that when we are given new insight into the world, if we choose to listen, we can be changed. We can return home by another route, not out of an excess of caution, as implied by the ancient story, but because we know we will not be the same once we get there. If we make time in our lives to seek out stars and then do the hard work of actually following them. I keep a very infrequent journal. It is one that I have dipped into at various different seasons of my life. And like other chores in my life, I love having kept a journal, but I'm not a big fan of actually keeping one. I love the idea of the journal, but the work itself, putting everything aside so that I can focus on this, often challenges me. So the end result is that when I look back over previous entries, I see myself having repeated epiphanies, understandings that emerge and which the self I was when I wrote it is convinced that I will hang on to forever. And then 2 years later, I'll open another journal and I'll encounter the same exact epiphany as though I've never before thought those ideas. And I'll be so proud of myself for coming to that awareness. Lather, rinse, repeat. My reflective life is a series of deja vu moments, Groundhog Day, where I break through with some utterly original thought that I will discover later I've already had 3 times before. This speaks to the nature of epiphanies, right? If they exist only as ideas that we never act on, that we never truly internalize in our bodies, they have to come at us many times before we can really take them in. We need look no further than the outrage that flames up after an incident that forces the United States to understand that it is still a racist society. The balloon fills with the helium of epiphany and then floats away above our heads, and many forget until it happens again and again. What we take from extraordinary moments back to the ordinary. We are all of us on a journey, a long journey like the Magi, the journey of our lives. For many of us, especially those drawn to church life, it is a spiritual journey. In this year of COVID, we were encouraged to stay home, but that does not mean that this journey is not available to us. As we go forward, it is up to us to follow that star and to take its meaning home with us. Will we allow our epiphanies of the past 9 months, the demand that we notice the deep inequalities that undergird our society as deep and deepening fault lines, stealing the lives of low-wage workers and those without access to adequate health care? As of November, the statistics on the disproportionate impact of COVID looked like this. Indigenous people were infected at 1.8 times the rate, hospitalized at 4 times the rate, and died at 2.6 times the rate of those who are white. Black people were infected at 1.4 times the rate, hospitalized at 3.7 times the rate, and died at 2.8 times the rate of those who are white. Latinx people were infected at 1.7 times the rate, hospitalized at 4.1 times the rate, and died at 2.8 times the rate of those who are white. Earlier in the service, I asked you to imagine standing barefoot on the frozen ground, to imagine that it had life pulsing through it, no matter how lifeless it may currently appear. That ground beneath our feet, it's beneath all our feet. That sun that warms our world 3 million miles more eager to reach us, it's given all of us life. How can we keep the stars that point to our epiphanies illuminated long enough for us to find a way to change the world as was into the world that could be? When faced with epiphanies, we have options. We can rest in our privilege, taking in new knowledge, but concerned more with the impact of that knowledge on us than on the world as a whole, than the full interconnected web. And let's be honest, we're likely to forget the full import of our new understandings as soon as the new enticing star appears on the horizon, maybe even as soon as the sink fills with dishes and the beds must get made, as soon as the vaccine helps us reclaim some semblance of life as it was. Just as Matthew's words can be interpreted in many ways, the same can be applied to Mary Oliver. She said that it is about slowly recognizing your own voice as that which is keeping you company. The slower it goes, the longer it might be able to hang on for you. But then purposefully striding, what a verb. I love that she uses that verb. It's not just enough to slowly recognize your own voice as that which is keeping you company. You must purposefully stride out and do deeper and deeper work into the world. Even if the only life you're saving is your own, if you are doing it with stride and purpose, with recognition of your connection to your own voice, it changes more than just your life. Like Wordsworth and Mary Oliver, I have experienced insight into the interconnectedness of all things. In times of suffering and in joy. My goal, whenever such understandings come upon me, is to live my life more open to these epiphany graces than I have been. To turn my back on the things that seek to distract me from my understanding, to turn my back on materialism and nihilism and cynicism, so that the epiphany might stay with me longer. And then I have to make dinner and pick up after the dog and manage a toddler's temper tantrum, and my epiphany is in danger of dissipating into the vapor of boiling pasta water. So if we're going to have any chance of meaningfully going home by another way, we're going to have to avoid some pitfalls. We're going to have to avoid resting in privilege, going home by another way that allows us to avoid witnessing the worst of what is happening to our fellow humans on this planet and the animals that join us here. Or as we head home by another way, do we let ourselves understand what must be changed, but lose the extent of those epiphanies as our home lives return to what they used to be? The joy of community that we've been missing so poignantly since last March. How easy to let the distractions of our lives, the return to safe travel and house guests and grandkids that we have missed, allow us to forget the epiphanies we've been granted during this time. If we do, how many more times must these particular epiphanies make their insistent return before we are forced into taking effective action, rather than holding on to passive awareness? Or the third option, might we do everything in our power to hang on to these epiphanies and remake our post-COVID world into one that reflects our values, our hopes, and our visions for justice? May we collectively do just that. Our feet on the dirt, aware now and always that we are all in this together. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you, Janet, for that meaningful and inspiring sermon. We'll have to contemplate in the next weeks and months. It's time for our offering now. As always, we ask you to be generous. To keep this interconnected web alive takes all of us giving our time, our energy, our thoughts and spirit. It also takes financial resources. This is your time to contribute to keeping all that the UU Meeting House is and means thriving. The morning offering will now be collected and gratefully received. Sue?
Good morning, everyone. I just want to kind of recap. You can go to our website, which brings you directly to our contribute button, or you can use the text to give. And if you scroll down a little and still haven't done your pledge for 2021, there's some information here. But when you click on contribute, it brings you to Tithely, and you can choose Sunday offering. If you haven't completed your 2020 pledge, you can do it there. If you want to contribute towards your 21 pledge or just a general gift, you can use any of these options. You can always make it recurring if you want to just set yourself up and have it automatically done once a month, once a week. And we always appreciate it if you can click cover the fees, which means your gift will be a little bit more and the church won't have to pay any fees to process a credit card. That is all. Thank you all very much. And I'm turning it over to Susan and Ray.
Took my love, took it down, climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hill, till the landslide brought it down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time, it makes you bolder, and children get older. Now I'm getting older too. So take my love, take it down. Climb a mountain and turn around. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hill, where the landslide brought it down. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. But time, it makes you bolder, and children get older. Now I'm getting older if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hill, where the landslide brought it down. Oh, the landslide brought it down. We're gonna go right into our final hymn, which is another favorite of mine, This Little Light, number 118. And we're gonna do all 3 verses, but also come back to the first verse, which is a great one. Ready? Yep. 1, 2, 1, 2. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right.
Oh, what a great way to kind of start. I was going to say winding down the service, but it seems like, with that energy, we're ready to go striding out into the world. So Reverend Janet is now going to share her closing words.
Well, I'm tempted to I'll preach another hour after that one. So we'll just keep on going and see. Oh, you don't want that. Okay. I offer these words in blessing. Deep peace of the rolling waves to you. Deep peace of the winter earth. Deep peace of the blowing air to you. Deep peace of the silent stars. Deep peace of persistent epiphany to you. Deep peace of the enlightened heart all the way home. Let peace, let peace, let peace fill your soul. May peace, may peace, may peace keep you whole.
Well, let's remember those words and carry those with us as we extinguish our chalices, but not the light that we hold inside us and carry forth in this day. With everybody who would like to, you may unmute yourselves now to join me in saying the words for extinguishing the chalice. I can say them quickly for anybody who doesn't know them by heart already. We're going to just say them together in a moment. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Ready? Carry the
Carry
flame.
the flame of
Peace and
peace and
love
love
till we
until
meet
we
again.
meet again.
And after the postlude, we're going to stay. We can stay and for a few minutes And then if you'd like to stick around for breakout groups for community and conversation, we'd love to have you join us for that as well.
So for our postlude, we have a favorite gospel blues song of mine and Ray's called Keep Your Lamps Trimmed and Burning. And Ray will often introduce this when we perform as, oh, we're going to take you to church. So we're excited that we're already here. And the words, keep your lamps trimmed and burning, come from the book of Matthew.
What was that?
Means to be prepared. But there's another lyric that sounds a little dark, for this old world is almost done. But in fact, its meaning is there's a better world coming. And this song is thought to be a works song that was sung by Southern slaves as a means of communication. Be prepared. We're going to run, and there's going to be a better world. So.
Brother, don't get worried. Brother, don't get worried. Brother, don't get worried. This old world is almost done. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. For this old world is almost done.
Sister, don't you stop praying, oh sister. Keep right on praying, sister. Don't you stop praying.
This old world, it's almost done. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning.
For this old world,
It's almost done. Father, don't get worried. Oh, Father, don't get worried. Father, don't get worried. This old world is almost done. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning.
for this old world,
It's almost done.
preacher, don't you stop preaching, oh preacher. Keep right on preaching, preacher. Don't you stop preaching.
This old world is almost done. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning.
For this old world,
It's almost done. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning.
for this old world, it's almost done. Thank you so much. This has been really great.